opinions for this event. My name is Jeff Caldwell. I'm the Director of External Affairs with the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, and I'm joined here by leaders from all agencies of state government who are working to prepare for and respond to the threats from Hurricane Florence. As you know, we're expecting some major impacts to the Commonwealth of Virginia and could see impacts from far southwest Virginia all the way to Hampton Roads and up to northern Virginia. I'm going to run down a list today of the folks that are joining us behind the podium just for your reference. We have Shannon Valentine, the Secretary of Transportation, Major General Timothy Williams, Adjutant General of the Virginia National Guard, Mike Riley, the Executive Director with the Virginia Department of Fire Programs, Lieutenant Colonel Tracy Rosillo from the Virginia State Police, Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security, Brian Moran, Duke Sorensen, the Commissioner of the Virginia Department of Social Services, Rob Carey, the Chief Deputy Commissioner with the Virginia Department of Transportation, Dr. Norman Oliver from the Virginia Department of Health Commissioner, Dr. Jeff Stern, who's the Virginia Department of Emergency Management State Coordinator, and Ed Bain, the Senior Vice President of Distribution from Dominion Energy, and lastly, Harold Clark, the Director of the Department of Corrections. These folks will all be available to answer any individual questions you have after our press conference. I would ask in advance of the press conference, you see beside me a interpreter of American Sign Language. We would ask those with the cameras to please frame it so that she is in the shot with the speakers so that we can reach that very important audience of the hearing impaired here in the state of Virginia. We also want to remind folks that 211 Virginia is available for anyone who needs information about sheltering, evacuation, or any other information around the Commonwealth. That can be reached by dialing 211 from any phone here in Virginia. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Jeff Stern, the State Coordinator from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, who will give some introductory remarks. Dr. Stern?
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, welcome everybody to the Virginia Emergency Operations Center. Our Virginia Emergency Support Team is active today, and tomorrow we'll go to 24/7 operations for the duration of this event. I'll turn it over to our Governor, Ralph Northam, for some remarks. Then I'll make a brief statement, and then we'll be here with the agency heads to answer any questions. With that, Governor, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Stern, for all of you being here. I'm very proud of all of you for the work you're doing preparing for this tremendous storm. We're here to give an update on Hurricane Florence and the impact it's expected to have here in Virginia. It's too soon to know the exact track Florence will take, but all of the models agree that Virginia can expect significant impacts. Coastal storm surge, inland flooding that may be severe, high winds, and widespread power outages. This is a serious storm, and it's going to affect the entire state of Virginia, and not just Virginia, but our neighbors to the south. Earlier today, coastal communities in North Carolina ordered evacuations, and South Carolina ordered an evacuation of its entire coastline. Our team has been using all of the latest data and forecasts available to help us decide whether we need to take similar steps. Based on that information, I have decided to order a mandatory evacuation of Zone A in Hampton Roads and the Eastern Shore. Being from the Eastern Shore and Hampton Roads myself, I know that folks in that part of the state are very familiar with what zone they live in. But I would like to remind you, you can go to knowyourzoneva.org or vaemergency.gov to find out what zone you're in. Zone A is the lowest lying and most flood-prone area of Hampton Roads and the Eastern Shore. This evacuation will begin tomorrow at 8 a.m. I'm making this announcement now to give residents, families, schools, and businesses time to prepare. I have here with me Dr. Jeff Stern, our statewide emergency coordinator, and other state officials who can answer questions. But obviously, one question is where residents of Zone A should evacuate to. And the simplest answer is go to higher ground and inland. We will continue to track the hurricane's path and be able to provide updates on available shelters soon. I want to emphasize this hurricane is likely to have impacts statewide, not just our coastal areas, but Southside, Southwest Virginia are likely to be affected as well. Everyone in Virginia needs to prepare. If it stalls, we're expecting significant rainfall. The largest threat to life from hurricanes is not the high winds. Flooding is the deadliest result of these storms. We will update the public on a regular basis. I ask all Virginians to take all precautionary measures to keep themselves and their families safe. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Stern.
Thank you, Governor. As the Governor indicated, the evacuation of Coastal Zone A under our regional tiered evacuation plan that we put in place last year in coordination with the local governments in the Hampton Roads, Eastern Shore, Northern Neck, Middle Peninsula, and Southside region will go into effect at 8 a.m. There will be additional information available in the coming hours and days as to emergency shelter locations from the local governments. We encourage everyone to listen to your local government authorities and take this storm very seriously. This is a very challenging storm that works against our normal planning scenarios because in addition to the danger of a major Category 4 or 5 potential storm, something that no one in Virginia has experienced in their lifetimes, coming ashore just south of us or even potentially still directly into Virginia. We will see with this potential stall that is predicted catastrophic levels of inland flooding throughout the state. We have seen projections most recently this evening of upwards of 20 inches in some areas with generally 8 to 10 to 12 to 15 inches across over half the Commonwealth. This does make the evacuation more challenging. We're going to rely on everyone using good sense and judgment. We have put a number of things into effect that will hopefully help prepare for the storm. First of all, the governor has authorized under our state of emergency the entire force of the National Guard to be mobilized. That's 6,000 troops. That's unprecedented. General Williams is here representing the Guard. We will have 1,500 Guard personnel on duty as of Wednesday night, with the remainder with mobilization orders at the ready to be available. To our knowledge, that has not been done in modern Virginia history for domestic humanitarian operations in support of the local governments. The state OC is activated at full activation, and we will be again in 24/7 operations tomorrow. We've been coordinating with nonprofit groups like the American Red Cross, other local governments, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Both the governor and I have spoken to Administrator Long several times today. We're coordinating with the private sector. We have a representative from Dominion Energy here, and we're talking to Appalachian Power and the cooperatives. We know that this storm will bring power loss in unpredicted but large areas of the state. Part of what residents must do is prepare for extended power outages. We're not talking a few hours or a few days, but potentially up to a week or two in some extreme cases. The power companies and the cooperatives are beginning to pre-position equipment, but they won't be able to repair damage until the storm passes through, and it's not going to pass through quickly. It's going to move through slowly. It may not be until Sunday or Monday when we can begin to try to access through certain areas to begin some of those repairs. We have, for the first time in recent years, requested mutual aid from states across the country. We have requested 21 swiftwater rescue teams. Those requests are being filled by other neighboring states from across the United States. For the last several years, we've been honored to be able to send Virginians to help in California, Texas, Florida, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Now's time when we are asking for others to come help us. We've asked for 5 incident management teams that will provide support on top of our own existing state teams and some other air resources for military support. We've ordered a large amount of commodities to be prepared to support sheltering activities and we have 100 buses that have been placed on standby that we can provide support to local governments who have exceeded their ability to evacuate citizens without movement. But we have a very narrow time window of 2 days to move folks out. Normally a large Category 4 storm just coming up the coast without the inland flooding, we would be looking at even a broader area. We feel this is the right measured, prudent approach. We have received regional requests from local governments for water, fuel, generators. Those requests are being filled as we speak. And again, the main thing I want to emphasize is the citizens in Zone A, please take this seriously. Evacuate tomorrow. Get to inland areas or higher areas, higher ground, and then those citizens and all citizens in Virginia need to be prepared for a long duration storm that will last through the weekend. We will be taxed and challenged with providing state support, moving around to support local governments that request it, the local first responders, your fire and rescue, EMS personnel, your sheriffs, your police officers, the local hospitals. Everybody is going to be severely taxed and challenged with responding if you have a need. So if you can get out of harm's way now, if you can prepare with the food, the medicine, the water that you need for an extended power outage, expect communications to fail, expect Wi-Fi to fail, understand who your neighbors are, be especially cognizant of those that need special assistance, and we'll be doing everything we can to muster all the forces of the state government to support our local governments and to get through this. With that, we will, at this stage, entertain questions.
Define mandatory as you see it.
Yeah, so under Virginia State Code, Governor Northam has the authority to mandate an evacuation. It is a misdemeanor. I'll defer to Lieutenant Colonel Rosillo for what category of misdemeanor. But we are taking this seriously. It is a mandatory evacuation. We're not going to be sending state troopers door to door. We don't have the resources to do that. But we are ordering people out of Zone A because it is the lowest area. We are very concerned about tidal surge and storm surge that could be life-threatening. The governor just got off the phone with the National Hurricane Center. We've had the National Hurricane Center director briefed the governor and the cabinet this morning, and they'll begin, the Hurricane Center tomorrow will begin to publish actual storm surge numbers, but we don't have time to wait anymore given the scenario of this storm. So the prudent thing is to order this evacuation.
Website showing the different zones is down currently. So if you
We're aware we have a problem with that. We're in the process of switching the website over and getting it fixed. So we ask residents that are going to the website to continue to try, and we should have that resolved within the next couple of hours.
So what is Zone A and how many people?
So if you're further behind if the gentleman here to my right come aside, we have, Jeff, did we lose the fidelity on this? I thought we had it up here on this map.
It isn't.
We're going to get Zone A up. We just lost the picture. There it is. So Zone A, this is a picture of Zone A. Can you zoom out the whole way? So that's in that's the red areas, correct? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. A little colorblind here. The large blue areas here. So on the eastern shore, basically along the shoreline, again, northern neck, Middle Peninsula, south side. So the bluish gray area, we'll get the website fixed.
Sorry, just to be clear, it's not the one with it's not just the border area. It's including here.
That's correct. We worked on this regional tiered evacuation plan over the last 2 years with all the localities. We rolled it out last year so that we could all speak with one voice. We had a conference call earlier today with the mayors and chief administrative officials to discuss the pros and cons and the options. They resoundingly said we needed to make a definitive decision this evening so that the schools could be prepared and the public could have the maximum time to make this decision. Based on the limited information we have on the path of the storm, the uncertainties about it, we feel that the direction to evacuate Zone A is the most prudent to save lives. And again, basically the website has just been overwhelmed for people going to it. So we're in a process, again, it should be completely fixed within a few hours.
What is the approximate population?
245,000 people are in Zone A. Zone B, which we also were evaluating over the last several days, is another 300,000. And there still may be a case that if the storm deviates north that we may be adding that to the list tomorrow. But for right now, Zone A, 245,000 people we are asking. Yep. About 300,000.
If you wanted to do all of Hampton Roads,
1.2 million people to do. We have 4 zones under the Know Your Zone program, this regional tiered evacuation program that we developed for last hurricane season. Most of the citizens in Hampton Roads and the local governments are very familiar with this. It's always good to be refreshed. But basically, if you live in a low-lying area, go to higher ground. We are not going to implement the I-64 lane reversal or contraflow plan. While we've had that model and that plan in our books for almost 2 decades, it does not fit this scenario. It would require nearly 1,000 personnel from the Department of Transportation, the National Guard, and the state police to deploy. The time it would take to get them in place and then the time to get them back to safety, we would not have enough time to implement that. That plan requires almost a fictional storm coming straight at us off the coast of Africa with a full 7 or 8 days of notice. And there's just no way to implement it. It also only buys us 15 to 20% more clearance time. Right now, we know there are people that will need to go down to Hampton Roads. We're going to need to get response resources down. So for the evacuation, we want to do it in an orderly fashion. North Carolina and South Carolina, again, ordered evacuations earlier. We already have people from North Carolina coming up through these roads. We coordinate them. Every year we have a joint coordination with our partners in North Carolina to coordinate this evacuation. But we are not going to implement the lane reversal plan. In Virginia, we will use the normal pathways. The evacuation zones on this map that you see are in dark gray and show the evacuation route. So the Eastern Shore up through our partners in Maryland, and then the rest of the areas up into the state. But again, because we're going to get this heavy, potentially catastrophic inland flooding, and we don't know where that's going to be, that's really going to limit everybody's mobility. Citizens, responders. So we, again, when people evacuate, plan to evacuate for a little while. We expect folks for at least a week to be able to stay put. And then we want to be able to direct government resources to the citizens most in need, who don't have transportation, who don't have the ability to take care of themselves.
You mentioned the shelters and that sort of situation. I mean, although they're not set up at this point, is there any advice you could give to people with the amount of uncertainty still out
Yeah.
there as to locating a shelter if they do need to get one
Yeah.
a couple days down the line?
So they should go to their local government websites or the local government information. Will have information on local sheltering if they don't have a means to go to a friend or family further inland or out of state or get a hotel for a week. We know a lot of folks don't have those means. The sheltering information will be widely published, again, over the next hours and days. We've asked every local government to stand up their shelters this week. And we know we have a challenge with sheltering capacity in Virginia, but again, coordinating with the Red Cross. We spoke to the Red Cross. Red Cross is planning for potentially between North Carolina and Virginia up to 100,000 people that might need to be in shelters. But again, we'll have more information on shelters. It's a dynamic situation. It takes a lot of, one of the reasons we've had to make some of these decisions is it just takes lead time to get resources in place. Next question. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm sorry. Okay.
Just with the amount of rainfall, I mean, we've had in the entire state.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 20 inches of flooding in half the
Yeah.
potentially get that. I mean,
Yep.
how big of a concern is that even just moving down the line, whether the storm hits Virginia Beach or
Yeah.
whether it lands in the Carolinas?
Yeah, no, this is a catastrophic storm for all of us that watched Hurricane Harvey's impact on Texas. It did catastrophic level hurricane damage through the Port Arthur area and the shores of Texas and deep inland, and then it stalled for 5 days over Houston, displaced 100 residents from 160,000 homes. We have 478,000 homes at risk of a Category 4 storm surge. That excludes the inland flooding that we don't know where it will have. So we're going to have a huge challenge that we face. Folks need to keep in mind what happened in Houston last year. Our local governments and our citizens are going to need to be resilient. We're going to need to improvise beyond the plans that we have in the books. We need to help each other out in ways that we haven't thought of on the fly. We're going to need to exert a lot of leadership as we go, and that's why this center will be up and all these state agencies committed. And again, we expect that we'll get further assistance from the federal government, from our Title X Department of Defense bases that we're proud of here in Virginia. We're going to put everything on this that we can.
Sometimes you can see some lead time, if rain is hitting the southwestern part of the state, the James River is going to flood at some point. So how would you go about mandatory evacuations that people live along the river if it was ever to,
Yeah, so that'll occur at the local level. All riverine or river flooding evacuations would come from local officials. We do work with them. We monitor the rivers where we expect a lot of the rivers to reach flood stage. We think, like, for example, here in the state capitol, there'll be a test for the first time since the 1990s of the James River flood walls. But we're coordinating. We've done calls all through the weekend. We've essentially been operating since Friday, coordinating with every single local government in the Commonwealth, the federal government, and, again, the response partners.
when will that test take place?
When it reaches flood stage or exceeds it.
Tested ahead of time.
No, it will be the first test of it. Okay, thank you. I need to wrap this up. We appreciate it. There'll be further updates throughout the week.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of notes. While the website is down, we do have a link to the Know Your Zone tool, http://bit.ly/KnowYourZoneVA. So that will be a direct tool. I'll put that on the board before you guys leave so everybody can get it down. But we do want to make sure that folks can get access to this tool while we work to repair our website. Also, we remind folks that you can call 211 Virginia to get the latest information as you prepare your hurricane evacuation. Thank you all for joining us. We will continue to push information on the social media sites for the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and from the governor's office as we approach this storm later this week. Thank you.
Andrea Ross works over at EDA, so she's been telling me I've been there for a little over a year. She's been kind. So now I can tell her that. I will. We had a discussion just like dude.
Hey, sir, how are you? Pretty good to see you again.
And Jennifer Lee and Hughes Melvin, yes, about the dialogue.
Yeah, she's talked to Jennifer.
Yeah, there's some more box down there.
Oh, you guys are wired. Yeah. Oh, okay. There's no wireless. I know, like, oh, it's on this frequency. Like that. I have a directional microphone.
Response.
Good news. I'm not near that.
100 buses on standby.
So you guys get XLR out of
For
that.
anyone,
It comes right to your camera.
anyone.
I got a lot of people on Facebook and I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You know what I mean? Because I'm using the phone's microphone. It's unfortunate.
I'm right. You guys can go. I'll catch a ride.
Evacuate. I think he said something about 6,000 troops.
What do I say? All right.
I guess 6,000 National Guard
No, I mean as long as you can wait for me, and then we'll do the call.
troops
Didn't really think so.
are also to respond to this huge storm. It's huge storm.
Stand over here.